Okay, so Mr. Grumbine, we talked a couple weeks ago, but we did not have the makings of this incredible deal, $908 billion, when you are literally facing 20 million people facing evictions in less than a month. Not to mention Game of Thrones. Enter your Game of Thrones reference. Dark Winter. Winter is coming. Coronavirus is out of control all over the country. Only going to get worse. Um, I'm just going to say your thoughts on Democrats signaling, yeah, let's take this now. We'll do better when Biden gets inaugurated.
We got a bunch of nonsense about this because Democrats clearly like to protect their own. Unfortunately, you look at what was offered before when Trump was, I mean, bad as Trump is, God, doesn't it suck that you have to give the disclaimer every time you say this stuff? But Trump, had offered up, I think it was 1.8 trillion. The Democrats at the time were putting up 2.2 trillion, something to that effect. And they said, we're not dealing with you, basically. And then Trump pulled back, and apparently they were concerned that McConnell wouldn't do it anyway, so they pulled back. Let's be fair. It was right in the middle of an election. They were not going to give Donald Trump a win no matter what. And Pelosi just came out recently and said, hey, now that we've got a real president coming, okay, now it'll be okay. But 900 billion is less than half of what they were asking for before, and approximately half of what Donald Trump offered to begin with. So there's no way months and months and months later that half is somehow or another okay when that wasn't even enough. So to my way of thinking, the Democrats once again placing politics above the people. It's very disappointing. Not to elevate the Republicans. There's nothing good to say about them either. The point, though, is that once again, the people that we're supposed to be calling the quote unquote good guys failed us miserably. And without even so much as an ounce of shame, I doubt they feel any shame. Ro Khanna, to his credit, came out and said, how is this okay? You all were beating me up saying we should be negotiating way back when, and now you're going to accept 900 billion? Are you freaking kidding me? So give Ro Khanna his due. He actually stood up for that. But this is just absolutely awful. And it's just more and more and more of the same standard conservative Democrat nonsense that the left has rejected. And continually those parasites come back and tell us that we are purists and all this other nonsense. But this, if you want a case in point of what it's all about, this right here is exactly why Democrats fail the left. And this is why the left rejects Democrats when they do this stuff.
So the thing that I find so, I guess it's like a psychological strategy is you initially offer, which $1,200 is shit. I mean, the fact that people got $1,200 and us as a country believe, that's enough. $1,200 was, you open the mail, you get the check, it's out the door like 5 minutes later between the amount of debt people have. But then you add in that they allow debt collectors to garnish those if you owed money and who doesn't owe money. So the $1,200 wasn't enough, and now they're not even offering the $1,200. So it seems like psychologically it's this strategy of we're going to offer next to nothing in the first place, and then we're going to take that next to nothing away so that you'll just be okay if you get the next to nothing crumbs ultimately. Really, we're fighting over a terrible, terrible $1,200 check when, make no mistake about it, even if you got the $1,200 check, the eviction moratorium is pretty much up. People are going to owe, if you live in New York City, LA, Chicago, high rent places, maybe people that have had a moratorium are going to owe maybe 10 grand, maybe more. When it's all, they'll put them on debt plans, this and that. But no other country is doing this. No other country. Every other country. Whether the government's covering the payrolls, whether they're giving UBI. So to me, all I hear in the media is give him those $1,200 checks. What a false choice we're being given between nothing and let's rail against getting nothing versus giving us $1,200 checks.
This is, I mean, not to, stab the old, horse that's already dead. But neoliberalism is all about diminished choices. It's all about giving you a completely untenable choice in Donald Trump and an equally untenable choice, but with better bedside manners in whatever they offer. And it's consistent. You can look every single time. It's never every scenario. I don't care what it is, whether it be healthcare, whether it be the $10,000 student debt cancellation kind of nonsense. I mean, every single thing that the Democrats do is just one step above pig slop, and you're supposed to feel grateful for it. And that would have been fine 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago when people weren't clued into the fact that the United States government can afford to do all of this stuff. But people are waking up, and they know better, and they should get better. And the problem is that the people are scattered. Their focus is a million different directions. You've seen me struggling now for 5 years in the public eye anyway, trying to express this concept of modern monetary theory, getting people to understand it. Even now, you'll have somebody in your thread who will say something silly about inflation or Weimar Republic, some moronic statement that literally is like the gatekeeper for keeping us from getting the things that we need. I mean, these people are not going to give it to us unless we demand it. And unless we can get our people ready to demand these things, it's definitely not going to happen. So, I mean, they're the enemy, no question about it. But we are not helping ourselves any by ignoring this stuff.
The thing that I find unbelievable about this is like they're continuing to rubber stamp the defense budget, that astronomical budget, no debate. No difficulty pushing that because narrative-wise, well, sacred cows, can't do anything about that. So they're continuing to do that, continuing to do subsidies for all these banks, pharmaceutical companies, fossil fuel companies, you name it. But they are literally penny pinching over this when, as you say, we already have all the money. So it's kind of just theatrical at this point. The other thing that I find truly... Oh, here's what I was looking for. Thank you. This is, I think, from yesterday. House and Senate approved 14 Lockheed Martin F-35 Joint Strike Fighters over DoD's 20 requests, 12 F-35As and 2 F-35Bs. In addition, the Air Force is authorized to add 6 F-35s meant for Turkey to its own fleet. So we have all the money in the world for Lockheed Martin and whatever other Northrop Grumman, but not for people facing eviction. We see the food lines. And the other thing, Steve, I mean, I'm not saying you're a pundit, but let's just use common sense. If Democrats are like, yeah, $900 billion now, when Biden gets in, we'll add more. Do they think that they're going to get one vote to add more from Republicans in the Senate? I know Joe Biden is a Republican and thinks he could just like go back to 1995 and whatever. The Republicans are going to say, no, we just did $900 billion on top of $2 trillion, which really most of that didn't even go to working people. So to me, this is it. If they pass $900 billion, good luck getting what we really need, which is, I think what we really need is closer to $4 to $5 trillion.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got to realize that the bathtub, the drain at the bottom of the bath's all the money out, has been going away for exports. It's been going away for tax breaks. It's been going away for all these different things. And what has happened is that the money for regular people on Main Street is drying up. And as this moratorium for evictions ends, and as student debt moratoriums end, and a host of other things, I mean, this last quarter of the year, I mean, we got Christmas here and all the other seasonal things that go on during this time that will give a slight hiccup to the economy. But then immediately thereafter, when all this stuff hits, it really is going to be a very, very dark winter, from pandemic to austerity. And it is really, really depressing because, again, the people refuse to fight back. I mean, honest to God, there's so much disinformation out there, Jordan, that people are swept up in the most, salacious of storylines instead of the sticking to the most simple one, which is the country can afford to do this stuff. They're not doing this stuff, and we're not fighting back against it. And that right there, my friend, is part and parcel with every single one of our battles that we've got, from student debt to Medicare to you name it, every single issue, Green New Deal, you name it. It's all about the money, and they have it. And we don't know it because we still think something about Weimar Germany or some nonsense about Zimbabwe or even worse, Venezuela. And because we can't get out of our own freaking way there and waste everyone's time talking about that nonsense, we end up not really getting the things that we need. And I'll say that until I'm blue in the face. That's the straight truth. We have got to unite behind this truth to make it happen. I mean, they're not going to do it just because. They're just not going to do it. There's no incentive for them to do it. Wall Street doesn't want them to do it. Unless we demand it and really take direct action, it's not going to happen. And you already seen the brunch crowd checking out. The brunch crowd's already, oh, thank God we're back to new normal. It literally is that bad.
Can I actually
it's
ask
terrible.
you? Can I actually ask you? Did you see?
Sure.
Did you see yesterday? This was trending with comedian David Sedaris. Did you see that? I did not. Comedian David Sedaris, I guess he's a correspondent for, I don't know, CBS Sunday This Morning. And he thought it would be funny to talk about his dreams of, instead of making citizens arrests, making citizen firings. So as citizens, just firing, the retail worker who doesn't, I don't know, service you fast enough. It was going around Twitter. It was literally, I tweeted, this guy is literally the queen of the wine moms, because this is,
oh my God,
this is the mentality now. If you're
disgusting.
If you're a suburban guy or gal who's doing fairly well, sure, pandemic is unsettling. You're watching it all day. You're taking precautions, but you're fine to pay your mortgage, this and that. But how dare if a service worker doesn't treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Anyway, as an aside, are you seeing anything from Biden since we've talked? He names Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. He names Javier Becerra as Health and Human Services, who I guess when he was in Congress was for Medicare for All. He named as Deputy Treasury Secretary. I know, I should be happy. He's a black guy, but this black guy was basically Obama's TPP guy under the Obama administration. Anthony Blinken as Secretary of State. We're hearing about Michelle Flournoy at Defense, but specifically Janet Yellen. Neera Tanden at OMB. I'm not seeing much by way of meeting the moment of how urgent this is.
Neera Tanden is in control of PAYGO, basically. She's in charge of scoring every bill to show whether or not the PAYGO rule is met. And believe me when I say this, she is 1,000% a neoliberal Austerian. She is the worst of the bunch. Janet Yellen has had a moment or two in her entire career, they're fleeting, where she has not actually been the worst thing ever. But the two of them are not a winning combination. And the two of them are going to be playing right there with Bernie Sanders, who's just on the other side of the fence in the Senate. And it's just the worst. There's nothing whatsoever. I've seen absolutely nothing but platitude salad on Twitter from Biden. The guy's hiding, basically. I haven't seen anything from him. And we're still in the midst of a pandemic, best as I can see. So, it's deeply depressing. There's not one of those picks that makes me say we're going to make some progress here. Not a single one of them. Not one.
What do you think? Obviously, there's the Jimmy Dore school of thought. I just had him on, and I happen to agree with him on this. Hey, progressives, you got, I think we now have a 13-seat, if you're a Democrat, 13-seat House majority. I don't know what the exact number is, but of capital P progressives, squad plus whatever, maybe about 8 to 10. So why don't you demand? Well, we're not voting for you, Speaker Pelosi, unless we get a Medicare for all vote, and or at least these checks or something like that. At least put up a fight. Then you pressure the Senate Republicans. What do you think about actually using the leverage that progressives now do have, because the corporate Democrats lost seats in the House, meaning if enough progressives vote no on key things coupled with the Republicans, it's not going to even pass the House.
Yeah, I'm watching some things happen that, I've seen some Omar stuff that really kind of bothered me, kind of giving a pass to really, really bad actors. And, I've seen AOC being political, to say the least. I'm not ready to throw dirt on their heads just yet, but I do have my eye open. I think that it's probably easier for us on the outside to be, very, very crystal clear in what we want than it is to be in the swamp that is Congress or the Senate and having to deal with making deals and working with the machine that does all this stuff. I personally have no interest whatsoever in ever being a part of that, unfortunately, which renders me kind of impotent when it comes to being able to make those kind of assessments. But it's a shame that they aren't taking a stronger, more bold stance in that. That's for damn sure. Absolutely.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.